So you were tuning into Box Story. My name is Rack Noble. Today we have a two very special guests with us. Here we have World Championship coach, two-time Showtime Kenny Porter. Kenny, tell hi to the people.
Did you just call me Showtime?
Showtime Kenny?
Nah, it's Showtime Shawn. He live across the street.
I thought you were both Showtime.
Nah, absolutely not. Nah. They got a couple of things for me, but they're probably no names that I want to repeat.
Okay, so we'll just keep it Kenny Porter, Mr. Porter.
Kenny Porter, yeah, that's fine.
No problem. And we also have his prospect, Maliek Montgomery. What's up, Maliek?
Yes. Hey, what's up?
8 fights, 8 KOs, 8 wins. Super featherweight prospect. Watch out for him real soon. So let's just jump into it. Over boxing, we've seen many success stories of father and son duos. We've seen the Dog Bowls, the Haneys, the Spinks, the Mayweathers, but none of them have had the longevity or the strength of the Porters. How have you guys stayed so strong together in this crazy boxing world?
You know what? This boxing thing for Shawn and myself, it was never something that was planned for him to be a professional fighter. So I think because it was genuine, it just came out of, as Shawn would like to say, love for each other, that when he decided he was going to be a professional boxer, he wanted me to be the guy to lead the charge. There's never been anything that was put out as far as expectations to do this before he was ready to do this. In other words, when he was playing football, he was allowed to play football. When he was playing basketball, he was playing basketball. When he ran track, he ran track. When he boxed, he boxed. And then the choices were his. I think what probably happens in a lot of those other situations is guys are groomed to be professional boxers. And I never did that with my kid. He was just groomed to be a good kid. And then the choices are his.
Yeah, because saying from a young age, from a real young age, you introduced Shawn to a range of sports and boxing was one of them. You had him in the gym from the age of 4 years old, trying that out, trying other stuff out. At what point did you believe that this could become more than a hobby and that he can go all the way with this?
Well, again, that was never my belief. That was never something I wanted for him. So it was just a father introducing his son to different activities, different sports, different communities, travel, education, things of that nature. When he decided that he wanted to box and take it even further, that was a conversation that he had to convince me of, not the other way around.
Oh, okay. So at what point did he come to you and say, Dad, I'm going to do this full time. I think I can go on the way. At what point around was it when he came to you with that conversation?
I'm smiling because it was the first adult conversation we ever had. And not only was it the first adult conversation we ever had, but I wasn't really happy with the conversation because he was a senior in high school and he came to me and he told me that he wanted to skip going to college and box. And at that time, I really wanted him to go to college. He was a really good student. He had the opportunity to play football, and he was really good at football. At that time, he was Old Spice Red Zone Player of the Year. He was also USA Today Player of the Week. Mm-hmm. And so he came to me in his senior year, and he said, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And he said, no, we really need to talk. And I said, okay. He said, no, we got to talk. It's got to be, this is serious. I said, okay, what's going on? I thought, something different, not sports. And we went walking and talking for about a half an hour to 45 minutes. Long walk, long talk. And he told me that he didn't want to go to college and play football because he felt that if he went to college to play football, they were going to put him on weightlifting conditioning programs. they were going to, bulk him up for football. He'd never be able to box again. And then also, he felt all the years he played ball that not all the guys that were on the team blocked as hard as him or ran as hard as him or tackled as hard as him. And he felt if he was a boxer that there was only one person that he had to rely on, and that was himself. And so I agreed at some point, but initially, no, that wasn't what I wanted for him.
Mm-hmm. I think, definitely looking at the career now, it's easy to say it was a very good decision that he made it 2 on heads. For example, Shawns beat some very good fighters, like Maliek, Broner, Garcia, just to name a few. But even as an amateur, even in the early days, he showed some real good signs of it. He beat guys like Willie Monroe Jr., Jesse Hart, Demetrius Andre, Jesse Jacobs, Alexander Usyk. All these big guys, these guys are all middleweight guys campaigning for titles, undisputed champions, unified championships. At that point, when he was beating these guys, of course, they weren't the names that they were now. Did you see the potential for him to do what he's been doing today?
Again, that wasn't where my mind was at. We beat those guys because that's what we were doing at the time in competing. But I knew, unlike those guys, we beat a guy who was the National Golden Glove champion, Edwin Rodriguez. And he was returning to be the National Golden Glove champion. And we stopped him and we beat him. He won the U.S. championship, and he was the national U.S. champion, and he was returning to do that. We beat him again. But I knew when the tournament was over, Shawn was going to go back and be a kid and play football, or go back and be a kid and play basketball. So my mindset was never on anything more than just allowing him to be happy and do the things that he did. And it's a blessing from God to have those opportunities. But that wasn't something that I thought about at all. Now, once he had the conversation with me, telling me what he wanted to do, and once we got in the same mindset, then I said, okay, we can be successful at this. He can be good at this. He can be great at this. And I talked to him and I said, you got to listen to everything I ask you to do. So he goes to Beijing, and he thought he was going to be competing in Beijing. And he goes to Beijing, and while he was there, the other guy who was on the team in his weight had an injury, and he didn't practice the entire week. Shawn had beat him twice in head-to-head competitions, in the U.S. championships and also in the trials to make the Pan Am team, which Shawn was on the Pan Am team. And at some point, the week of the competition, they handed out uniforms, but they didn't give Shawn a uniform. And he sent me an email, and I could tell by the email he was really, he was really down. His feelings were hurt because he didn't get a uniform. And they gave the uniform to the kid that was there, who had beaten twice, who didn't even practice the whole time they were there because he had it in. And when he got back, to lift his spirits up, I said, hey, I got a deal for us. And he said, you got a deal? I said, yeah, I got us a deal. He said, I'm turning pro. I said, yeah, I got a deal. He said, who we signed with? I said, we signed with us. He said, us? I said, yeah. He said, so you the manager? I said, yeah, I'm the manager. He said, you the trainer? I said, yeah, I'm the trainer. He said, let's go. And that really lifted his spirits up. And basically, pretty much his entire career, that's the way we've been doing it. It's really worked out for us.
Definitely.
And, I'm happy with what he's doing.
So, of course, Shawn, we all know, is a 2-weight world champion. He's been in with the best. He's beaten the best. If he's ever lost, it's been a close fight. It could have gone either way. Without doubt, he's one of the modern-day elites. What's left on the legacy? Because I know Shawn's liking to do his podcast. I know he's talking for Showtime. He ain't going to want to do the sport for too long. What's left on the legacy?
In my eyes, and I think I understand what he wants to do, closing this out. He's in the championship rounds of his career. He's in those championship rounds of the actual career. But I think what he wants to do, he wants to take on the biggest challenge that he can get, which right now, the fight against Bud Crawford is one that he really, really wants. So, we've been trying to make that happen. We're working on that. Also, I believe that he wants to fight Errol Spence again. We want that rematch. I know he wants that rematch. And there may be some great things that are ahead of him in terms of if he's able to get the fight with Terrence and get the fight with Errol, fighting for everything, and then he's moving on to what he's doing now, which is sports commentary. He's actually in Puerto Rico right now, working for NBC Sports. This Thursday night, he'll be calling fights from Puerto Rico for NBC Sports. So he works for Fox and also NBC. And I believe that's it for him is in terms of what he wants to do. The biggest, best fights out there, which are Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence fights, and then move on to the rest of his life.
One fight which I'm not sure if you guys considered it or thought about it, but as you know, Shawn as an amateur was fighting at middleweight. He was beating the elite middleweights. Have you ever considered 154 challenging maybe one of the Charlos or Esle Lande Lara for the 154 title? Because I think Shawn can definitely punch in that bracket.
No,
two-weight world champions.
I've never considered it. Just from a business standpoint, it financially is a drop down for us.
Fair enough.
And that's why I've never really considered it. If you're able to get a fight against Terrence Crawford, or you're able to get a fight against Errol Spence, you're able to get a fight against Pacquiao, that's gonna outdo the fights at 54 for us.
Money-wise, yeah, definitely.
Right, business. And then when you move to 54, you got to realize and understand, if you guys don't understand this, on fight night, the guy you weighed in against when you weighed 154 pounds, he's about 175 pounds on fight night. Sure. And that's a lot of weight to carry. Shawn's body weight doesn't go up like that. His body weight, he will never compete and be, if he weighs in at 54 and he comes back at the fight at 58, I'd be surprised,
Another point I wanted to touch on, of course, 2020 was a very hard period for yourself, for Maliek, for all fighters. How did you guys as a team stay strong throughout 2020? How did you keep that training up and still continue at the top level? Because I see Maliek got a good win the other week. Shawn won against Maliek the other month. So you guys are still going strong.
We stayed busy because we built out everything here. So we actually have, everything that we need here, except we don't spar here, but we have everything from heavy bags to speed bags to, strength conditioning areas to, do everything that we need to do. So if you got a fighter that is willing to take the information and is willing to give it everything he has and focus on what you are trying to do during this period of time, it's hard. I get it. I do understand that. But all that did for me was create more focus. And I believe the same thing held true of Maliek. It also held true of Shawn. We were able to get a lot of things done that we weren't necessarily doing prior to that, because there were a lot of outside interferences that Shawn had going on that he wanted to be a part of. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, but when you're put in a situation where you only can do certain things a certain way, and if you're successful and that's what you do, that's what you continue to do. So we do things a certain way to get a certain result, which creates our success. So we really don't want to be a part of everything that everybody else has going on. So for us, this has worked out really good.
I can see that ideal or that logic has been from the beginning of the career with Shawn. You know, you managed him, you trained him, you done it all your way on your own path. Even to this lockdown, I heard a little funny story how when quarantine first started, you couldn't get sparring partners in. So you said, you know what, I'm gonna jump in with Shawn myself. How was that? How was that after like 10 years of not sparring Shawn?
You know what? I hung with him for about 3 weeks, and after 3 weeks, along with the other workouts that I normally do on my own, in 3 weeks, you know, riding my bike a lot, and lifting weights. Now sparring with him. After 3 weeks, I said, okay, we got to get somebody in here fresh for you. Somebody else in here fresh that you can pound on. And that happens even with guys we normally spar with, our normal sparring partners. They're not able to go an entire 6 to 8 week camp with Shawn because he keeps climbing and climbing. And I keep pushing and pushing. And these guys aren't used to climbing like that. They're not used to pushing like that. And then you got to remember, again, if you revert back to what you said earlier about his amateur career, to fight guys, and not just fight them, but win against guys like Danny Jacobs, Demetrius Andrade, Omar Usyk. Those guys are the world champions, yes.
Elite world champions, we can add.
Elite world champions. Okay, so it's a very hard thing to do to ask another guy to come in and go up against an elite world champion for 6, 8 weeks. Whereas if you put that guy in a fight with him, he's not going to make it through the 12 rounds. But now you're asking him to make it for 6, 8 weeks. It's an insurmountable odds against him. So it took its toll on me as well. I backed off. We brought some other guys in, and we were able to pull it off and be successful.
So of course, Shawn is the main fighter at this point. He's done the most things for the camp. But I see you've got another fighter on your mix right now, Maliek Montgomery. 8 fights, 8 wins, 8 KOs. With a record like that, it's just a matter of time before he will be making headlines and getting opportunities. How soon till young Maliek will be in the mix with the guys getting these top 10 ranking shots?
I don't know how soon, but Maliek and I had a conversation yesterday. We have lots of conversations, which helps us to translate the things we're doing into the ring. And we had a conversation yesterday about the same thing you just said, opportunities. I don't know when he'll be in the top 10, but I know he's going to get the opportunities. The opportunities will come sooner than later. Just in a conversational, passing conversation that him and I have had, you know, when we started out at the beginning of this year, I think his first fight was at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, this time next year, I want you 15-0. Well, we expect to be 10-0 in the next 2 months. So that 15-0 gonna get here kind of fast. I would definitely say in 2022, next year, he will definitely be ranked in the top, 15 to fighters or so. I think I'd be pushing if I said the top 10, but definitely I see him in the top 15 within a year.
It sounds like a good strategy because it sounds like you're taking your time with it. A lot of managers, fighters, coaches, they're rushing their fighters, getting them world ranked as soon as possible. But it sounds like you're really taking your time with Maliek and making sure he learns the process along the way and is ready for when the time comes.
Yeah, well, I mean, the process, each fight we should have to elevate. The opponent should be better. Things that we work on, we should be better at those things. And those are the things you look for in each fight. So it's not something I want to do to rush him to be top-rated fighter. As his time comes, and he's young, he's 25. As his time comes, I want him to be ready to take each step. So the way I'm looking at it right now, he's been taking each step, and he's been, grading out very well in each fight that he's had. He's had 4 fights in the last 4 months. He's got another fight coming up on the 19th of this month. So in less than 18 days, 17 days, he's fighting again. And again, we're going to raise up, you know, the opponents and everything. So he's moving to an 8-round fight in the next fight. And then from there, we move on to a 10-round fight. It's steps. He's just taking steps.
Like I said, I think that's a trait that many coaches and managers have left behind in matchmaking at appropriate levels. Because a lot of fighters these days will have maybe 10 fights and they're already talking about world titles. But believing in the process, trusting in the process, and learning your abilities step by step. It's a slow race. It's not a sprint. It's a slow race to get boxing and understand the game. And I think that's definitely the right approach to take.
Yeah, this is more of a marathon than it is a sprint, you know. So you got to be prepared to go the distance. And something that myself and Maliek have had conversations about, being able to go the distance. I think he's known since we got started, you know, last year. I think he's known that this wasn't about him rushing. This was about him working, learning, and growing, and he's doing really well. I couldn't ask for any more at this point in time than he's doing. And if he was able to do anything more than he's doing right now, I wouldn't push it any faster. I think the pace that he's going is one that we'll be able to look back at and say, okay, when we were fighting these 6 and 8 round fights and we were doing the things that we were doing and we were successful, now we use that as our foundation for the 10-round fight and the 12-round fight.
Yeah, definitely. I agree on that. Good foundations. Good foundations. It's a slow and steady start. Slow and steady will always win a race. And like you said, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Just going to ask, I know you got training, so I don't want to keep you for too much longer. But what do you find has been the biggest advantages and disadvantages to being the father and manager and trainer of your son?
I think this biggest advantage that you can have to be the father and the trainer of the son, the biggest advantage you can have is one that most trainers wish they could have. They wish they could have a relationship that was as close as a father and son. That's what we work for in the trainer-boxer relationship. In my situation, I happen to be the father, so I can't get it any better than that. I would say the disadvantage, I dealt with more disadvantages of it in the amateurs than necessarily in the pros. In the amateurs, there were points in times when the political aspects of things, and picking guys to be on national teams and international teams, Pan Am teams, and Olympic teams, that became a problem because a lot of times they pick these guys just sitting in a meeting. They don't pick the guys that are actually in the ring fighting. And so when I was allowed to be in those rooms before Shawn got old enough to compete at that level, when I was allowed to be in those rooms, I actually saw a lot of that going on. And I didn't say much, you know, unless I was asked a question, I'd answer, but you see it and you're part of it at that time. But when Shawn moved up to that level and they were picking guys and doing things and he wasn't the guy, they didn't want me in the room anymore. So I don't deal with that on the highest level that we deal with it in the professional ranks, but that was a big disadvantage in the amateurs, you know, so much so that, you know, I understand when guys say, hey, you know, I thought I won, I should have been on that team, and it didn't go my way. I'm quite sure you're right. Not everybody who wins is really the winner.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's the thing that's not about the amateurs around the way. Just because your hand is raised, that doesn't mean that's always the story of the case. The Olympic podium isn't always the story of the case.
That's true.
Lots of factors come into it. So Kenny, it sounds like you've definitely done a lot within boxing, come a long way, 2-time world championship coach. What are your future plans? What is your future plans? What are you looking to do left within the sport?
My future plans, they're coming together real quick right now. Malik is, he's 8-0. He's got 8 knockouts, and I expect him to be unveiled to the world in the next 2 to 3 months. That the world will know, and not just through Instagram or Facebook, but on a big network. He's got some big things coming up there. And then there's another group of young prospects that I'm looking at, that I'm doing some things with. We actually have a camp here next week, and these guys will be coming in, and I'll be working with them. And there'll be some announcements about those things going on here in the next, 2 to 3 months as well. And we're going to be really, really strong in terms of youth, and strong in terms of a cohesive team, a unit that is working with each guy, pushing each guy to get to that world-class level. And I don't think they could get a better mentor than Shawn Porter.
No, definitely. Nothing inspires a young fighter more than seeing the older fighter who's been there, done it, who they've looked up to and watched on the TV many times. That's really inspiring along the way. As a fighter myself, seeing the fighters who I looked up to, sharing the ring with them, sharing the training ground with them, yeah, it definitely edges you along. Have you guys considered promoting your own shows, putting on your own fights, and staging your own events?
Yeah. That we've had a promotional company for a number of years, and I actually just had a meeting with a couple of guys last week after Malik's fight to talk about being involved with Shawn Porter Promotions. That's a promotional company that we've had. We were a co-promoter on the Errol Spence Shawn Porter fight. So we've had those conversations. Right now, for me, Ken Porter Management, which is my management company that I run, is going to be signing about 6 fighters, and those guys will, be the base, the foundation of, what the promotional company does.
Okay, I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing that the fighters flourish from that.
It's coming soon. It's coming real soon.
And a question I got on top of that is, when you guys come into the UK, when are the Porters coming back to the UK? Because I know you came over a few years ago for the Mayweather fight. When you guys come back over to show us the skills?
I'm disappointed. I usually go to the UK 2 to 3 times a year. 4 is really good for me. I haven't been to the UK in a couple of years because of what we just had to deal with in the world, and I don't know when I'm coming back, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope something happens here this summer. That would be the best time for me to come over. So let's speak it into existence.
Yeah, let's talk it.
Mid to late summer, I'm coming to the UK.
Hey, the Porter camp, the Porter team, always welcome to the UK. You've got lots of love over here. I remember when you came over for the Mayweather, I think it was Gervonta Davis fight, pictures, swarms, everyone knows who you guys are. More than welcome anytime. Is there any chance of your fighters might be fighting in the UK? Maliek Montgomery fighting the UK fighter?
This guy right here.
Yeah. We got super featherweights. We got a bunch of them.
Yeah. We don't have. I don't believe that Maliek is the type of guy that is concerned with going to someone else's backyard to fight. He'll fight in the backyard of anybody. He'll come to the UK. So we'll be looking at that kind of opportunity for him as well. I don't want to just go to the UK just to hang out or watch other fighters fight. I want to go to the UK and win a fight too. So
for business. There for business. Yeah. Get business done. No, I fully understand. Maliek, Kenny, so much thank you for your time. Appreciated it. I know you guys are about to get to training. I've taken a bit of your time, so it's much appreciated. I'll keep it out for you guys. Keep on the lookout. And we'll be in touch soon. All the best for training, guys.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. Take care. All the best.